Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show for Tuesday night, October the 8th, the year of our Lord, 2024. I'm your host, BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. And please note, what you're about to watch and hear tonight consists of my opinion and those of my guests only. And my guests tonight are many, numerous. Tonight, I'm featuring an SHR Media special report.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
The topic tonight is the Harris-Biden regime despises actual Americans. And what I mean by that is I'll be covering the recent events following Hurricane Helene and basically the government's response or lack thereof to this terrible disaster. I won't be taking any calls and I won't be taking any other commentary for tonight. I'm going to keep my comments to a minimum for this show and simply let the residents and occupants themselves tell their own Hurricane Helene stories, along with a few articles that I've selected for reference and relevance along the way. Of course, government has already told us not to believe our lying eyes and that they are not responsible for whatever's occurred as a result of Hurricane Helene. Well, I'll leave that determination of that statement's veracity up to you, my viewers and my listeners. And I'm guessing that you'll have some thoughts and opinions at the conclusion of the show. I know I will. I already do. To be fair, I'm going to let the government go first. Here are the official White House statements regarding Hurricane Helene. This is from the White House. Since Hurricane Helene made landfall, there have been false claims and misinformation regarding the federal assistance available to survivors from President Trump, congressional Republicans, and others. These claims are not true. Congress passed a short-term extension of government funding. That funding ensured that FEMA has the funds and the capability to immediately respond to active events like Hurricane Helene. And they're doing just that. Please remember these official statements from your government. Before the storm hit, President Biden instructed federal agencies to pre-position critical supplies like food, water, emergency vehicles close to affected areas. Since then, federal personnel have distributed millions of meals and liters of water to survivors. Remember these, please. It is categorically untrue to say that disaster funds have been used for anything other than providing relief to those that need it most. Additionally, there is a malicious rumor that survivors are eligible for only $750 in assistance from FEMA. That is not true. FEMA is providing an immediate payment of $750 to eligible survivors to help with urgent needs like food, baby formula, and other necessities. Those affected may qualify for additional assistance to repair storm-related damage to homes, property, and find a temporary place to stay, as well as relief for lost crops and livestock. Remember these claims. If you or a loved one has been affected by Hurricane Helene, the Harris-Biden administration has your back and will be with you as long as it takes. Go here for assistance or use one of the additional methods. So, in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Survivors in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. You can apply for FEMA assistance by visiting disasterassistance.gov, calling 1-800, that number, using the FEMA app. And that's how you get assistance from your federal government. Well, we'll discuss those issues in greater detail later on in the show. Of course, there are those who are going to insist that I am merely fabricating hate and discontent against our government, and that my bias is clearly showing through. Well, I refute any ridiculous claim like that by merely pointing to the number of survivors and workers and volunteers on the ground at numerous disaster scenes. I could not have possibly put any of my own thoughts and words into their heads and their mouths and force them to speak what you're going to hear. All I'm going to be doing tonight is one thing: letting them speak for themselves. Now, let's allow the actual American citizens involved talk about their own personal experiences and observations.
I just saw the video of Kamala Harris in my hometown, Augusta, Georgia, speaking to people like everything's going to be okay. She's sitting here telling us that go online, apply. Well, okay, hundreds of us still don't have power, internet services. Sure, we can get to it. We can fight. We can apply. We can get on it for immediate assistance. Well, I went on because we split. We went to Columbia right away and got our hotel room. Now, luckily, we're in an Airbnb. This is a place that we get to live. I get to give my kids some hot water, some power, some food, just some comfort, something to help them know that this is going to be okay while our house is back home destroyed and filling up with water. The floors are caving in. Hundreds of people. That's happening to everybody around the city. Like I said, we still don't have water, still don't have power. Slowly it's getting restored. And I think all the linemen that are out there working so hard from all the other states, they're the only ones that are actually getting things done, not the freaking government.
Let me stop right here just for a moment. The videos that you're going to see are in relative chronological order. So you'll witness and hear a progression as we go along. Let's continue.
Because you're telling us to go online to FEMA and apply, and you'll get immediate help for $750. Well, okay, I went on FEMA, I applied, and I immediately got denied because apparently I have homeowners insurance, and that's going to cover that. And okay, sure, I know it will. It'll get taken care of. Thank God we're all safe and alive. I know it's just things. It's a house, but it's not immediate. And I don't know, what is she talking about? I have no idea. Nobody I know has had immediate assistance. Nobody's $750 what to our Cash App. What are you going to get? How are we going to do this? How are we going to get this? So then if we get the $750, that'll barely cover the groceries that we've all lost in our freezers and refrigerators and everything. Also, there's thousands of pine trees, just like this one, and oak trees and all these trees all over the entire city. Power lines are everywhere. They're ripped apart. Poles are down. Transformers are down. It's going to take weeks to get this repaired in some places. So people are going around. There's tree people that are going around riding through neighborhoods. Hey, you guys need help? Come on. Some of them are trying to get you to sign a contract right there on the spot. No quote, no money down. We're just going to get to work. Okay, so then a lot of times you have to bring in a crane. There's trees on all these houses. So now we have to get a crane to pick up the tree. Okay, the crane rents $3,500. Awesome. And then the groundwork is, I was told, $150 per hour, $185 per hour, just until the work's done. And you just have to trust us that it's going to get done, and you have to pay out of pocket, and then your insurance will cover it, and they'll cut you a check. And so $750, man, that's going to that'll definitely take care of it. I don't know what I want her to do, but just that was flat out insulting. And she just didn't seem to have any regard, any care for what was going on. They flew her into our literal airport, drove her right to a disaster place, set her up a little podium with, oh, look at this house with trees in it. This looks awesome. Let's do this. Man, I bet you she didn't spend 10 minutes driving around looking at that place. I have no idea. but it's so, and I know we don't even have it as bad. We have deaths in our area, but we're compared to people in North Carolina who are absolutely trapped and the entire town's gone. This thing completely obliterated the Southeast. And I don't know what to even do to fix it. I don't have answers. I don't know. But I know that her coming on and saying immediate help, $750 is going to be given to those. What the hell is that? What are we supposed to do with that? And what immediate help? What are you talking about? People are going knocking door to door. Who has power? Who has don't? I mean, it's pretty easy to tell who can have power and who doesn't. It's just, and then what are you going to do? You're gonna give them $750 right there at the door? Is that them? Is that what's happening, or is it going to be sit tight? We're coming. Here's some cheese and some bread. Oh God, I don't know, guys. This is just, it's crazy though. That it's unreal to go through something like this. And you see it all your life on news in Florida and Texas and Louisiana. Everybody get pelts by hurricanes. We're up in Augusta, Georgia. We get rain, we get wind, sometimes tornadoes. It's never really like a huge deal. But this swept through and completely decimated our area. We are not used to anything like this, not prepared. We have no idea how to even start setting up. And I don't even know how to start cleaning up trees out of my yard. I mean, I guess I'll just get a chainsaw. I'll start, but now we have like gigantic 20-foot root balls hanging out everywhere. I can't grind that up. I don't even know how to like start getting rid of that. We're probably just going to make it into like a playhouse or something. I have no idea.
Remember, the Harris-Biden regime despises actual Americans. Let's try this again.
Completely unscripted, but this is something very important for all of St. Pete, all Pinellas County, probably all of Florida, because there are other areas that were impacted by the storm. This is seriously something I need you guys to watch and definitely share. I don't know if you can share a Facebook Live thing, but this is important information about what's going on from the storm and how FEMA's gotten involved. So, as you know, I own a fleet of dump trailers and I rent them out to people. Well, they've been insanely busy and the line at the landfill has been 2 to 3 hours long. Well, yesterday we were informed that the landfill was no longer going to be accepting storm debris. We all said, what the hell? What kind of sense does that make? So they said that FEMA was going to be setting up free dump zones and that we would go and empty our loads there. So I said, okay, that's great. We won't have to charge the client a dump fee. We can hopefully have a higher turnover rate and help more people. All's good. They said that information was supposed to be released last night on some of the city's websites. Well, I went to St. Pete's website. I went to Pinellas County website. I went to the dumps website. Nothing was there. I went to FEMA's website. Nothing was there. And this morning I said, okay, well, maybe they didn't get it set up in time and we need to still go to the landfill. So 4:30, got up, hooked up some trailers, headed to the landfill. They had a sheriff there turning people away and saying, you cannot dump here. And I said, well, where am I supposed to go? And said, there's no information online. I said, go online, find the FEMA website. I said, you pull out your phone, you show me where it is. And they started going through it, and then they said, you got to get out of here. You're obstructing traffic, and you can either leave right now or you can leave in the back of the sheriff car. So I pulled away. I went to what's called a transfer station. It's much more expensive. It's a fee that has to be passed on to the client. Otherwise, I would literally be operating at a loss. And they said that FEMA has come in and shut down the landfill, shut down the waste management's transfer station, and we were not allowed to dump there, and we had to go to these FEMA sites. I said, well, where are these FEMA sites? No one can tell us. And they still didn't have the information. So I decided to call one of the biggest companies in the area, definitely a competitor. And I said, look, I'm a smaller business, and I'm curious, do you guys know where we're supposed to empty the storm debris? And I apparently got on the phone with someone pretty high up in the company. I don't know if it was the owner or the owner's son, but he was really well informed, pretty pissed off about the situation. He started to laugh and said, yeah, there's 3 dump sites set up by FEMA, and they're for resident use only. You cannot go in there with a commercial grade truck. You cannot go in there with a commercial grade trailer. You can't go in there with anything with any lettering on it. And they had asked them, well, what do you suggest that we do with the thousands of bins that we have rented out, full of trash, ready to go to the landfill right now? And they said, dump it back in the people's driveways. FEMA will get around to cleaning up on our own. So,
did you hear that? dump it back on people's driveways.
He said, what do you mean FEMA's going to clean up? They said, over the course of the next year, FEMA will be picking up all the trash.
Year.
So in the meantime, over the course of the next year, and this is from personal eyewitness thing, as I was dropping off dump trailers, within 2 days, there's mold inside people's homes. That mold doesn't stop growing just because you take the trash out and you put it at the road. It's going to be growing at the road. Today, when I was driving through Shore Acres down Overlook Drive and Shore Acres Boulevard, there are dozens of rats hopping from pile to pile. It is an absolute breeding ground. And they want all that stuff to sit there for a year while they clean up. We got all the stuff picked up. It's in bins. We're ready to go to the landfill, and they're refusing us at the landfill, and they're suggesting that we take this stuff back and dump it in your yards. We need you to call the city, call the mayor, call FEMA, call the Pinellas County landfill, call Governor Ron DeSantis. Speak up. Otherwise, we're going to be staring at this trash for over a year. That's insane. This isn't about making money. I dropped my prices to help people out. I just want to get St. Pete cleaned back up, and they want it to stay a shit show. I mean, I really hate to come on here and be acting like a conspiracy theorist, but I remember when Katrina happened and people were talking about concentration camps being set up in New Orleans by FEMA. I thought that was crazy. Then we heard about Hawaii getting burned, and because of X and social media, people were actually able to hop on and show what was going on. We saw FEMA step in and do jack crap. I don't know, but we all need to stand up and voice ourselves to get St. Pete cleaned up. Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with a mess for a really long time. So share this video, share the knowledge, call your local officials, call the governor. Pinellas County is a shit show. We need to get it cleaned up. I don't know how to end this thing now, so it might take me a minute, but that's all I got to say.
Okay, that's a year from now. Remember what he said about social media. And then I'm going to play something a little bit later about the importance of social media and how people don't want you to relay information about things like this on social media.
Well, you're going to have to just excuse my appearance because we have no power. We have no running water, but I'm just so pissed off that I've got to make this clear. We got a notification from TEMA. I'm guessing that's FEMA for Tennessee. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's supposed to be the disaster relief people, but they were like, do not donate your time. We don't want you to donate time unless we ask for you. And we don't want you to donate stuff to other people. You need to just donate money and stuff to us and get your instructions from us and listen to us. What? And then they said yesterday, we don't go into areas that the roads are not easily accessible. What? You are the disaster relief people.
Okay, in case you think she's kidding, I have an article saying exactly that later. Please keep watching because the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans.
Like that is your job, to go into the areas that are hit by disaster and provide relief. Not to just go to the easy area and sit and wait for the people that are in the disaster area to be able to come to you. The roads that we do have were cleared by the locals, and you have to have trucks and stuff to be able to get through there. Like, it's just beyond me. So, and you have us all messed up. If you think you're going to come here and bark orders at us, and then expect the people just to give you the money and us trust that you're going to try to take care of us when you don't go into areas that are not easily accessible. What? Like, this is Cott County, girl. So donate to our local churches because they will make sure that the people that are need it will get it. And you need to just, while we appreciate what help you're trying to provide, I don't think you understood the assignment, because it's not to just go to one location in hopes that the people in the disaster area can make it to you. So just sit back and watch, and we'll show you how it's done, but we're not going to stop. So please and thank you.
The Harris-Biden administration regime hates actual Americans.
You know, at this point, the choice is very clear. So for you Democratic shills out there that's still trying to defend this administration, it's over. It's over. You've already had an example what it feels like when you are American first, despite if you don't like him. He always put American first. Now you have an example when you're American last, and they only give you $750 if there is a natural disaster that happened, because they have depleted the FEMA fund of $1.4 billion that was given out to illegal migrants for shelter and food and resources, just like we keep saying. But then they want to jump on the news and mainstream media and tell you that Republicans are lying. They're the ones not passing the bills. They're the one that's holding up funding. No, Department of Homeland Security, the director, all of these people that's in government and in power, they are the ones that work for Biden and Harris. That's who's running this show right now. The natural disaster that happened in these states here, and they do not have no money. How can you get on TV and tell the American citizens, taxpayer citizens, that you don't have no money to give them because you spent it all for illegal migrants? Y'all take a look at this video from Fox News.
Alejandro Mayorkas sounding the alarm on FEMA funding right after the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Listen.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
This all comes as the Biden-Harris administration spent over $1 billion from a FEMA program on services for migrants.
I have to calm down because I'm really extremely pissed. I mean, I can only imagine. Like I said, I live in a hurricane area. I've seen our bridges and our roads filled with water, bayous, everything. It's just that we're in a flat area. But to look to see the devastation, I've never seen anything like that in my life. I mean, entire roads washed away. Same thing with Hurricane Katrina. And then you had Maui, with Hawaii, and what happened there. And in all of these situations, the government does not step up. And now it's at a point where they are telling the American people that they have depleted our funds. It's not like they didn't have the money. They just chose to use it a different way instead of what it was intended to be used for, which is for natural disasters for our country. You know, I said that I was going to write Senator Ted Cruz about this. You know, he's our senator up there, and I'm going to write him because they need to dig somewhere. And some other types of departments, go back over there and get the check from Zelensky. You're going to have to go and get that check from Netanyahu. You're going to have to go back over there and get that damn check from Taiwan because America ain't got it. If you can't take care of your own American citizens now, then we ain't got it for nobody else. So yes, these people these illegal immigrants that's coming here, we ain't got it. Y'all gonna have to go back where y'all came from because we don't have it. If we can't take care of our own home and our own people in our country, then we ain't got it for nobody else. I'm sorry. And that's all I got to say about that. So
these are American citizens in their own words, and they're upset, and rightly so. Somebody in chat was asking about SpaceX. Let's watch. Up at the top, it indicates that SpaceX engineers are trying to deliver Starlink terminals and supplies to devastated area in North Carolina right now. And FEMA is both failing to help and won't let others help. Again, this is in roughly chronological order. This is unconscionable. They just took this video a few hours ago where you can see the level of devastation, roads, houses, electricity, water, and ground internet connections completely destroyed. FEMA wouldn't let them land to deliver critical supplies. My blood is boiling. And in this video, it goes on and on and on. Let's continue. Because at this point, we know the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans.
FEMA's here. You know what FEMA just told us? We can't get you a phone. I have no ID. I have no way to pay for food. He has no way to get gas. We're stuck. So we have to sleep in a car that's leaking with the same clothes we've had on since the...
It was a 30-foot wall of water just pushing through Lake Lure all the way down. My house washed away. I had a cat. I had 2 geckos. And I lost it all.
It was like by a miracle that we made it. I started to call 911. I could not get through. I called again and I was able to get through. And I said, the water's coming in our house. And they said, get to higher ground. And I was like, okay, we're going in the attic. And we're overwhelmed with calls right now. That's all we can tell you to do. Your adrenaline's pumping. It's like, this is, you're saving your life right now. You're doing it.
Let's hear more. By the way, some of these people were indicating that, well, if you remember what the government said, us giving money through FEMA to illegal invaders, my term, that is not true. Here happens to be an ad from FEMA, 8/17/23 last year. We may provide disaster assistance to qualified non-citizens. Qualified non-citizens include permanent residents, non-citizens granted asylum, refugees, certain non-citizens of their spouses or kids, and more. For more information, go here. As Musk indicated, yes, they are literally using your tax dollars to import voters and disenfranchise you. It's happening. And FEMA used up its budget ferrying illegals into the country instead of saving American lives. He calls that treason. Another gentleman.
I say, fuck you, Democrats, and fuck you, Kamala Harris. People are dying because of you. But y'all are on here right now telling lies, telling some bullshit lies about what's happening in North Carolina. You're just retweeting and pushing the lies that these paid shills for Kamala Harris are pushing. But you're not talking to people on the ground. You're not calling them on the phone and texting them. You're not talking. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. People are dying because of Kamala Harris. Her FEMA is blocking people, was blocking people from saving lives and delivering critical aid. They stopped people from going on rescue missions. They blocked everything. A bunch of these federal employees were just sitting around in fucking hotel rooms, taking up hotel rooms, and there wasn't any hotel rooms for the rescued victims to sleep in. So the fucking hurricane victims had to sleep outside. And you lying ass Democrats are talking about, oh, well, Donald Trump 5 or 6 years ago during this storm, so you're lying about that. Let me tell you something. There wasn't a fucking horse on top of a roof of a gymnasium. A fucking horse. There was a horse on top of a roof. There wasn't a car hanging out the side of fucking houses. There were not dead people hanging in fucking power lines and being stuck hanging at the top of trees. Dead people all over the place. All kinds of dead people everywhere. The whole place smells like dead people. Y'all don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's like the place got hit with a fucking nuclear bomb. That's what it feels like if you're there and you're looking at it. But you are talking about like, oh, it's just 100 people or something. It's much worse than that. But all you Democrats do is lie your ass off and try to minimize it and try to make it seem like FEMA and Kamala Harris are doing a good job. They're not. $750, not even for a single person. It's $750 per a household. And you have to apply to get that money. And everyone...
It's not a day either. Some people were mistaken. $750 a day. No.
One so far that I know is getting denied. The overwhelming majority of people are getting denied from that measly $750 fucking dollars because you gave all the fucking FEMA funding to illegal immigrants. So you won't give no one any money, and you won't let everyday people save their fellow Americans. What the fuck are you doing, Kamala Harris? Babies are dying because of you. Children are dying because of you. Countless people are dying because of you.
The government says, you're wrong. That's not happening. Keep watching.
Right now, and for the past few days, people have died because of you. Because of what you have done. Because of your lies. Because of your inaction. That's why they fucking died. And it's your fault. And that's the fucking truth. And it's sad, it's disgusting that we can't just come together on this one fucking thing with random people that aren't even political fucking dying. Thousands of them dying. You'd think that we could come together, but no, we can't. Because you Democrats just want to attack Donald Trump. You just want to defend Kamala Harris from all and any criticism, even if we're talking about life and death, dead children, dead babies, dead mothers, dead. You even defend that for criticism? And by the way, if you actually care so much, then how come you Democrats are not down there in North Carolina? No, I'll make it even easier for you. How come none of you Democrats have donated any money? How come none of you Democrats are raising money for these people? How come Kamala Harris is not raising any money for these people? Why? Y'all have Hollywood. You have one of your fucking celebrities put up a fundraiser and y'all can raise tens of millions and not hundreds of millions of dollars for these victims. But you won't do it because you hate people that are different than you. People you think may be different. And you want to talk about hate and the existential threat when you won't even allow us to save fucking lives because you care so much about stopping people from voting. A lot of these people will never be the same. They're mentally broken if they're not physically broken, if they're not already fucking dead. No one's walking away from that hole. Even if they took no physical damage, they got psychological damage for years. People lost their family. People lost their children. People lost their babies. Y'all can't even begin to imagine. It smells like death. It smells like the fucking Holocaust in there. It's like they got fucking bombed, fucking carpet bombed 100,000 times in a row. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like when you're there. And there's nothing but lawlessness. People are having to pull knives and guns to defend themselves and their water and their food. It's gotten bad. And where the fuck is Kamala Harris? Where's the leadership? This cannot be who we're going to vote for. This person cannot be president if this is how it's going to be. Just, fundraising for herself. Fundraising for herself literally while people are dying. She's drinking wine, having champagne with billionaires while thousands of people are dying. Countless people are dying in Georgia, but it's more, especially in North Carolina, it's really fucking bad. And then she goes on a fucking podcast, this abortion shit, right? And it's just like, so you're going to go on a podcast, a bunch of dumb whores. Well, they taped that episode while people were dying. It's been a while, 5 minutes or so. I'm going to leave it at that.
These people have voices, and these people need to be heard. They must be heard, and they're going to be heard here tonight.
Do not tell the police that you're doing that. fucking lie and say that you live here, you're coming home, you have 100% pure pathway. Deny, deny, deny. Do not say you're bringing stuff to aid us because they're turning you around. I don't know why. I do not know why, but yeah, that's happening. So just with that said, be sneaky. Sneak it in here. Remember, we are in fact playing a real life video game and we are here to win. The rules kind of don't apply anymore here. We don't have rules. All that's fake now. So just ride the wave with me and put on your best gamer mentality and help me win this. Okay? Thank you. Okay. Sorry, real quick. We're catching.
You have to pretend that you live someplace in order to bring people aid. This is America, the United States of America, 2024.
Picked up a flight of pediatric medical supplies that were brought in and are going to North Asheville. We were sitting in the private portion of the airport and we got to overhear an awful lot. The Army pilots, the Navy pilots, hospital representatives, there was a lot of chatter. While we were there, a private jet landed and 4 FEMA representatives got off. 4 people off of a private jet. Come to find out, and you're not going to hear this, so let me tell you. Come to find out, Mission Hospital was told, a private hospital, that they are going to go ahead and be the morgue center for body recovery. All of the Army Chinook helicopters you're seeing flying overhead, they are doing body recovery. FEMA said, and you can take this as a direct quote, said that they are too tied up at the border to send any more representatives. Yeah, at the border. So anyhow, I guess border control trumps whatever's going on here. So they told Mission Hospital they are not sending refrigerated trucks so that they can stack the bodies up. And we also overheard that whatever fatality numbers you are hearing, and this is a quote, go ahead and add a couple of zeros. So FEMA's too busy with the border. A private hospital and the Army are going to take over body recovery, and private individuals with their private helicopters and their private planes are the ones who are flying in supplies. I was at Hangar 10. I was picking up supplies. There was a stack for the Cajun Navy. There was a stack that looked like it was ASPCA. These are all being sent by private individuals. FEMA is doing nothing. Go ahead and share that.
There are many more. We've just begun.
I would rather vote for a man who is convicted on 34 felony counts, but who is willing to put America first, than to cast a vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. These people are showing us exactly who matters to them. They are showing us every single day who they care about. They have $750 in aid that they are willing to give out to American citizens who have literally lost everything. People's towns, everything have been completely wiped out. They get $750. But when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to funding other countries, when it comes to rolling out the red carpet and let millions and millions and millions of illegals come in, you have money for that. You have money to put illegals up in hotel rooms. You have money to send our tax dollars to other countries who's doing God knows what with it. But when we have American citizens here, when they are suffering and who have literally lost everything, our government is MIA. See, this is why I like to vote for facts over feelings instead of looking at how nice a person pretends to be. Anybody can put out a good image. Anybody can make themselves look good. But when it comes down to it, look at what they're doing with the money. Look at who is getting the money. And every registered voter should pay attention to this. Pay attention to how this government is spending your tax dollars. When you go to the poll, think.
She's correct. And that's this. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. the Cajun Navy. You'll be hearing more about them at the end of the show, because I definitely have recommendations about them. Let's continue. Remembering, of course, the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans like you, like me, like this man.
I don't understand how people are still in support of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. Now, I can admit, I'm not the most political savvy person. This is my first year voting, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what the fuck is going on. We are being sold out by our own fucking government. I don't understand how they got money for war. They got money to give illegal immigrants, but they don't have any money to give to the U.S. citizen. $750 for a hurricane victim. What is that going to do? That's like 2 weeks worth of groceries. Let's be real. And then Joe Biden going to say he wants the American people to help with the hurricane relief. You know, we would love to help, Joe. We would love to help, but we fucking can't. We are all living paycheck to paycheck. We're struggling. Maybe, just maybe, if you quit giving our money to fucking Ukraine, we would be in a better situation. Matter of fact, as much money as we sent to Ukraine, tell them to send some back. Honestly, if you were on the fence about who you were voting for, this should be the defining moment. This should let you know right now who you should be voting for. And it's not Kamala Harris. She does not care about the U.S. citizen, and she shows it time and time again.
These are customary constituents for the Democrat Party. And these are their voices.
It's the sound of solace. Help is on the way.
We just kind of organized a private helicopter army to go in and survey the damage and extract people and take supplies in and just create landing zones for everybody to have supply routes in and out.
Matt McSwain is a pilot from Mount Holly and says he received a call from Operation Airdrop, an organization now working to shore up relief and rescue efforts for folks trapped in North Carolina's high country.
We've had 37 helicopters today, volunteers. We've had people from Texas to Maine, all the way across the East Coast, just show up and like, how do we help?
For folks who remember Katrina, there's like the Cajun Navy.
Right.
I feel very much like this is Cajun Navy.
Yep, this is Redneck Navy.
But wait, of course, there's more. Because obviously, votes are more important than people.
Say it. I'm not thinking about voters right now. I'm thinking about lives. And to be honest, it's much bigger than anything else. But we're thinking about lives, a lot of lives lost, a lot of people missing. And that's what I'd be focused on right now.
And more.
I hear the train a-coming. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine.
People are hiking in.
I'm stuck in cold for breath. And time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rolling. All down the line I go. All down the line I go. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy.
They're hiking to bypass FEMA and get needed supplies in. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans like you and me.
Hey, family. We're up at their neighbors. We can't see any of y'all's Marcos at this time, and I don't know when, and I don't know if this is going to go through. We're doing okay. Trying to get my voice here. My tears are from the stories that I've heard from people that I have met and talked to. We're okay. It's just thinking about what so many people are going through is horrifying. A woman and her husband left their home, came back the next day and found they had 15 cats, 5 dogs, and a father-in-law, and found them all dead except for 4 cats. And this story was hard to hear. But it's the look in her eyes that I can't forget. Last night, somebody was at the river and just looking at the destruction and cars upside down and saw Halloween costumes floating down our river. And then she saw faces and realized they weren't costumes. She said, I've seen bodies and I'm not okay with that. And then somebody called and said, when is somebody going to come collect all the bodies that have piled up along the embankment of the river? And then a man called saying, I need 911 at my house. And somebody said, why? Are you okay? And he said, yes, I'm okay. But I opened my front door and there are several bodies in my front yard. This is the stuff I'm having a hard time with. Because I want to make it better for everybody and I can't do anything. So anyway, these tears aren't about us, and I didn't mean to cry, but I can't talk about this without this. And I'm sure because the emotional stress that we're under right now is beyond anything we've experienced. So anyway, I'm just checking in to let you know we're okay. We still are at the house where we get the water. We're going to do our neighborhood today. Yesterday we made pizza and took it to several neighbors. Today we're putting cheese and happy hour stuff together, and we're going to take it to neighbors. Just everybody get, little cups, and just to kind of lighten the spirits with some spirits. And then our neighbors, the sellers, invited us over for spaghetti, so we're going to go there after the happy hour. Unfortunately, I'm still gluten-free during this, so I'll be making my own pasta and bringing it. So I'm just touching base, giving y'all a face. Y'all haven't had one. It's this face, this one that bathes. I take baths out in the rain. Or we do sponge baths in the bathroom. It's a very cold way to bathe, but I'm clean every day at the end of the day. So anyway, we're fine. We really are. I'm just so sad for people out there. So anyway, we love y'all. That we're okay.
They're lucky. They still have a house.
It's like we're being left out. We should not be left out. We're people too.
Tonight, Eyewitness News has a grim new look at the devastation in Rutherford County, southeast of Asheville. This is Main Street in Chimney Rock, much of the town reduced to rubble. the road washing out into the river at one point, cars destroyed, debris piled high through the heart of the town.
Help.
Help now.
We need help for this whole area. We can't be the only ones left out of the government's help.
Mike Roberts is the pastor at Grassy Knob Church in Lake Lure. He and his wife Mary have been busy distributing water, food, and life-saving supplies from a grocery store parking lot.
We've been having hot food in the mornings. We cook it at home and bring it here, but we're running out of hot food.
They're receiving donations from across the county, including Paul and Kara Brock, owners of Lord Market and Grill.
Resources, we're going to keep feeding folks as they're here working, which seems to be for a foreseeable future.
Paul and Kara were just airlifted from their house in the community of Bat Cave yesterday.
It's almost like we've had a Katrina-type incident in a place that has a lot less infrastructure and a lot more, the topography is a whole lot more challenging.
When they saw the devastation in their village of 400, they were determined to chip in, turning the patio of their restaurant into a makeshift grill for hungry residents and first responders, cooking any food they have with a donated generator. But many of their neighbors are still trapped tonight, cut off by the devastating scenes near Chimney Rock.
They have nowhere to go and they've lost everything. And they're truly like in the street with fires and trying to feed their neighbors.
For volunteers like Mike, the calls for help are louder than ever.
These people love this country just like I do. And they need help.
But the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. And you need to hear this and watch this, because this is, again, reality in the United States 2024.
This country has ever seen. The reason why those Americans in North Carolina, those mothers, those fathers, those precious little children were left to die, were left on rooftops begging their government for help that never came, is because Kamala Harris turned FEMA into an illegal alien resettlement agency. Its manpower, its dollars, its resources, its mental energy was spent over the last 4 years learning how to do one thing: how to get illegal aliens from outside the country into your town. And so when disaster struck, they were not ready, they were not prepared, they were not capable, and they did not care. And our fellow citizens, including babies, children, young kids, were left to suffer and drown. They did not scramble the helicopters. They did not scramble the military. They did not send needed assistance. But if those children had been living in a foreign country, they've been living in Haiti, or they've been living in Venezuela, why then Kamala Harris would have sent in help immediately. A betrayal like we've never seen before, Sean. This is infuriating.
No, this is America in 2024. Where everything is political.
Everybody that heard about all the supplies and planes that were coming from downtown Greenville Airport and flying up to North Carolina to deliver supplies, water, whatever anybody was donating and people were needing was being sent up there. Well, today it's awfully quiet, and we see these helicopters lined up. And they have a booth set up here and everything. Turns out that's FEMA. FEMA has shut down all the local donation operations that were going on and delivering supplies. And now they're saying that they're not allowed to deliver any more supplies anymore. So all these people are, unfortunately, have all these supplies, but cannot take it up there. So that's our government for you. Oh, and another thing, those helicopters that have been sitting there have been sitting there since this morning. Haven't seen a single movement, just a bunch of impacting of important equipment and nothing happening. So I'm so sorry, North Carolina. We tried.
The Harris-Biden regime, however, hates actual Americans. That's you and me.
Guys, this is fucking unreal. Holy shit, unreal.
People sitting on what remains of their porch. And this is from Representative Anna Paulina Luna in Florida.
North Carolina is underwater, 1,000 people missing. While Pinellas County, we had 11 deaths, and we have a majority of our residents that aren't going to be able to come back to their homes because they're completely destroyed. You have Mayorkas, the Biden-Harris administration, and radical leftists in Washington, mostly in the Democrat Party, gave illegals $1.1 billion in housing assistance. People that never paid into the system. Mind you, they wouldn't have been here in the first place if they weren't campaigning on open borders, but that's a separate video. You should be pissed. And if you think as a legislator, I'm not pissed, and I don't see the games that happen in Washington, hoping that you're not paying attention, because that's how it goes up there, is they hope the American people are too busy working to pay attention to the crap that they're doing. I'm telling you, you need to get out and vote, because this is not going to stop. It's just going to continue with the inflation, with the border security issues. And now we have Americans that are literally dying, not being able to get assistance. And the administration says, it's okay, we'll give you $750. Meanwhile, they said our tax dollars overseas to fund countries that don't need it, and they give it to illegal immigrants.
But the government, wait, you saw at the very beginning of the show. Well, that's a lie. That's not happening. Here's Joe Pags.
You won't believe this story about Kamala Harris and hurricanes. Kamala Harris, the vice president, and Joe Biden, the president, have been missing in action. Well, they certainly were for the first 3 days after Hurricane Helene slammed into the East Coast. One was campaigning in Las Vegas and Los Angeles. The other one was resting at his house in Delaware. He claimed he was on the phone for 2 hours a day in command. Well, this story just came out from the New York Post. I got to bring it to you. Kamala Harris slammed for ditching hurricane season preparedness briefings, written by Stephen Nelson at the Post. Out of Washington, Vice President Kamala Harris is at the center of a new storm for foregoing annual hurricane season preparedness briefings that were a staple of her predecessor Mike Pence's calendar, with critics arguing the omission reflects how she may govern as president. Foes of the Democratic presidential nominee highlighted the missing briefings as the death toll from Hurricane Helene passed 143 in the Southeast, as Harris scrambled back to Washington from Las Vegas Monday to attend a FEMA briefing and booked a trip Wednesday to storm-hit Augusta, Georgia. Quote, Harris hasn't demonstrated the ability or desire to do the apolitical parts of the job that have a huge impact on our lives, a former Pence aide told the Post, as criticism of the flat-footed federal response to Helene became a campaign issue. Quote, why should Americans trust her to start in the Oval Office? Then President Donald Trump and Pence held pre-hurricane season preparedness meetings with federal emergency officials in each of their 4 years in office. President Biden had similar meetings in 2021, 2022, and 2023, though Harris doesn't seem to have joined or held her own parallel events. We all saw the lackluster response to Hurricane Helene by this administration. I had no idea she'd skipped all these meetings. What do you think about this? Does this show a lack of leadership or no big deal? Give me a comment, give me a like, make sure you share, and make sure you follow. Come on!
What about East Palestine in Ohio? What about Maui and Lahaina? And what about now? This is a letter to Alejandro Mayorkas. This is from Matt Gaetz, a representative from Florida. Dear Secretary Mayorkas, yesterday you said the FEMA, which is part of your department, does not have enough funds to make it through the hurricane season. This news comes after FEMA has spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on migrants due to border czar Kamala Harris's open border instead of prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by disasters. My office has been in contact with whistleblowers in numerous emergency management functions as the federal, state, and local levels, and they all point to the same critical mismanagement issues. FEMA has wasted taxpayer dollars, misappropriated funds, and left other federal, state, and local responders without deployment orders on the ground. As reported and further confirmed by my office, hundreds, if not thousands, of service members were deployed by the Department of Defense to North Carolina and have sat idle, waiting for FEMA. We have confirmed FEMA employees deployed on the clock, awaiting orders in hotels. FEMA pre-disaster aid was withheld, exacerbating the emergency. It is also public that NGOs have purchased airline tickets for migrants through the use of FEMA funds. The aftermath of Hurricane Helene is a major disaster, and your waste and unpreparedness are leaving Americans in distress, unable to access food, water, or medicine, and expecting help with none coming. And then he asks a number of questions below. But this is what the U.S. government at the beginning of the show, they say this is false. This is fake news. This is misinformation. Let's continue.
Are they still not there anywhere? What are you seeing from FEMA in the federal response, if any?
I mean, they're present. They're in the way. They are directly interrupting our ability to conduct missions and operations. And I'm not going to disparage anybody, because we are trying to work within partner relationships, both government and non-government entities within state and federal and county. I went to put a couple of people into a hotel last night, and they have a security guard at the hotel. And they said, "Oh, we're so sorry. The entire hotel has been booked for federal employees." And I was like, no, I have people that would just pull it out of a mountain that are living out in the hills, and there's not a place for me to put them because we have federal employees that are staying in the hotel. I slept in this white car last night. I smell like foot and death right now, as does every single person on our team. Not a single one of us slept. We got done maybe at 3 o'clock. The moment the sun was up and we could fly helicopters again, we were back in the air, and we have not stopped. And I was like on the fence about trying to get on this program or not. I want people to understand how incredible this organization is, Save Our Allies, and all the work that all of these volunteers are doing. But people, this is biblical level devastation. This is apocalyptic, the things that we see out there.
These are towns up in the mountains that are 10, 20, 40 miles away from any other town. And people on the ground like you need helicopters from the government, and they will not release them. I have heard that time and again. And the people who are delivering aid up in the mountains are now getting requests for body bags. Tim, we got to
you are 100% correct. Oh, you're right about that. And there was a no-fly when the president flew in today. We had to land helicopters to not go rescue people so a photo op could take place. And that's a travesty, and that's unconscionable.
If people want to donate, is it saveourallies.com?
That's right. And if somebody is stuck somewhere, or you know somebody that's stuck, you can go to saveourallies.org, and you can click on there. Let us know. We have people going all over in the places that can't be reached. That's why we have special operations people working with partnerships to get into those areas. So go there, support that organization, and also let us know where to go.
Tim Kennedy, you are a great American. Thank you. And I know all of this devastated area thanks you, and Save Our Allies as well. We appreciate you being on the program, just taking a couple moments out of rescuing people to tell us the story. Thank you, Tim Kennedy.
Love you much, Tim Kennedy.
Thank you.
And I have to tell you, the Harris Biden regime hates actual Americans. That's you and me. This is one of our friends from SHR.
Told us that Biden has restricted the airspace over his visit to North Carolina for his hurricane photo op. That means that the people who rely on helicopters for rescues and supply drops, they're just left to die. Meanwhile, the liberal areas like Asheville are getting all of his attention. Now, do you want to guess who the people being ignored by this traitor supported up in the mountains, only accessible by helicopters? I don't think you need to guess. And Harris, she's skipping her hurricane briefings and hasn't bothered to show up anywhere near the area. Do you need any more proof that these people hate you? Check this out, y'all.
I don't. I'm fairly convinced. We're not stopping. All of these people need to be heard. This situation needs to be witnessed. This is America.
The people in North Carolina, you deserve to hear this. I'm a truck driver, all right? I have a 53-foot step deck. I've been trucking for about 2.5 years. I have a YouTube channel. You can verify that on Babyline Hotshot. Usually in a disaster situation, it is payday for truckers. We look for that hurricane. We look for that ice storm. There's generators coming to you. There's stuff coming out of military bases. There's excavators, skid steers, bulldozers, tree trimming equipment, pumps, like water pumps to pump water out of places that have been flooded. There's no loads on the load board coming to you within 125 miles of Asheville. It's called Truck Stop. This is where I find all my loads. Chicago, Illinois, up at the top. Within 250 miles of Chicago is where I'm going to pick up. The second is the destination. So it goes origin, destination. Watch. See? Drop-off location. Let's do city. North Carolina. Click it. Boom. All right. These are all $1.40 a mile loads, $1.39. That was posted yesterday. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing. These are loads that you wouldn't even, nobody's taking them. They're just on the load board. They've been on there since yesterday. You can see, right? Let's type in a different city. That's from Chicago. Maybe Tennessee, maybe Nashville is closer, and they'd send resources from Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee, within 250 miles of Nashville, to Asheville, North Carolina, within 125 miles. Let's see, that's it. That's all the loads. That's all the loads that are 28,000 pounds in. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, what the hell's going on here? I had brokers call me and tell me, Stu, have you seen any loads going to Asheville or like anywhere around the Carolinas, South Carolina, Georgia? Is there any like FEMA loads? There's none. Zero. He's been a broker for 6 years. And he's talking to other brokers. They're saying the same thing. What's going on, guys?
What is going on? No one knows, and a lot of people don't seem to care.
I just want everyone to know that we are displaced due to Hurricane Helene from Western North Carolina. We cannot go home. We have no power, no food, no water, no nothing. We are spending $400 a night on a hotel due to price gouging in the surrounding areas because they know that people have nowhere to go. We applied for FEMA. Myself and my sister applied. My sister applied first. She got denied. I said, okay, let me try. I applied. We got denied. So we have both been denied FEMA assistance. So everyone's saying FEMA is helping $750. And by the way, that $750 wouldn't even cover 2 nights at this hotel. So I just want everyone to know that FEMA sucks and president's doing nothing and we are stuck here. I am blowing through all my savings in a hotel to escape a natural disaster. So fuck you, FEMA. And by the way, do not donate to Red Cross, donate to Samaritan's Purse or to me because we are bringing supplies in. Donate to the victims directly. I'm not taking any of the money for myself. I don't like accepting anything. We are sending truckloads in from a friend who lives out in Greenville. So, and when we get to go back, we will bring a full truck of supplies. So don't donate to these big organizations because we're not getting any of it. None.
And that's America. 2024. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans, especially like Terrence Williams, when they do a job for Americans.
What's going on, y'all? So I'm still out here in North Carolina. My pancakes just arrived. I'm going to be whipping up thousands of pancakes. The people in Asheville and also outside of Asheville still need a lot of help. A lot of them are out of water, electricity. People just don't have power at all. A lot of them are cut off from communication. They don't have TV, radio. They don't know what's going on. And y'all, I'm glad to see a lot of Americans are out here helping right now because FEMA and Kamala Harris is not doing much at all. And Kamala Harris is saying that they're going to give these people $750. People's lives have been ruined. $750 will not do much at all. They need more than that. But we are out here doing what we can. So many of Americans are coming together. Y'all, look at this. Look at this. This is what it's all about. We gotta come together and help out our American brothers and sisters. We need to help our people at home first. At home first. America is home, and we need to help our people here. These are our American brothers and sisters, and they need us. There's so many people who are still in need. There are people who are missing. Some people can't find their children. Some people cannot find their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, their fathers. There's so many people missing still, and they need all the help in the world. But everybody is out here doing the best that they can do since the government is failing to help the American people.
Are you beginning to see a trend here?
Being a migrant trans woman, there is an undocumented concern. There is also a concern of whether they would trust the places that are offering shelter that are faith-based because of the way they've been responded to in the past. Then if
This is FEMA's priority.
they are accepted, what would happen in terms of misgendering, in terms of bedrooms and bathrooms,
Misgendering during a disaster. That's a critical point.
etc. And then in addition, public safety once they're inside from those who are actually sheltering with them. All those concerns are there.
That's a FEMA priority.
Sean, right now there are 157 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. Let me just repeat that number. 150 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. New York City alone spends over $1 billion a year on illegal immigrants. And then you see these pictures of husbands and wives and children who have lost everything. Their homes have floated down rivers. Their homes have been taken out by mudslides. Their vehicles are gone. Their picture albums are destroyed. Every sentimental value that they could ever possibly imagine is gone. You know, will never be brought back. And what does Kamala do? She comes out and offers $750. $750. The TV in the person's house costs more than $750, and you see the absolute destruction. Sean, of all the political things that I've seen in the last decade, this is the one that bothers me the most, hands down, by far. We have spent $200 billion sending money over to Ukraine and Russia to see young, innocent 21-year-old kids in dirty trenches pop around corners and shoot each other in the face with AK-47s. You watch these videos on YouTube, the lives are expunged in a matter of seconds. $200 billion America has sent over there. Yet we can't take care of our own in Georgia and North Carolina and Virginia and Florida. $750. We send billions to places like Pakistan, and they won't tell us that bin Laden is literally living next to their equivalent of West Point. Yet we offer devastated families, the very people you're showing on the screen right now, we offer devastated families $750.
Once.
Sean, this is the worst administration in the history of the country. These aren't serious people. Frankly, I think they're cruel people. The way they put Americans last is absolutely cruel. And I hope every single person going to the polls on November 5th and before in early voting will remember exactly who these people are.
As I say, this isn't just indifference. This is action or inaction with intent.
Here's your update from Western North Carolina and our Helene help operations. First of all, some really dumb rules have been implemented, y'all. One of our big shelters and distribution centers, the health department told the refugees, those that are stranded, who've lost everything, that they could not use the shelter showers without flip-flops. Dumbest thing I have ever heard. These people have lost everything, and you won't let them take a hot shower without flip-flops? Oh, well, when I got that call, thank you, friends, and thank you to Larry and Concord who hooked us up at the nail supply place, because we sent 18,000 pairs of flip-flops up to the shelter this morning, where one of my girlfriends took a trailer up so people can take a shower. Those are the kind of rules that don't help in a time of absolute survival disaster. That's number one. Number two is, if you're reading about FEMA
Let's see a priority. Death or athlete's foot?
online and wondering if they're really a pain in the tail, I can confirm it is true. I tried to send in a pallet of chainsaws 2 days ago, and we had to divert it somewhere away from FEMA because they wanted to confiscate. FEMA, those ain't your chainsaws. Our mountain people are much better with them than y'all are, although I'm sure there's some very fine people that work for FEMA. I'm talking about the organization. But those saws need to be in the hands of the guys on ATVs down in the holler and up on these trees where there are blocked roads where we can get access to our neighbors who are still stranded. This is not a one-time little 5-minute storm. There are people that we have not gotten to yet, and we want to get to them. That's why those chainsaws are up there. So fine, we're going to go around you, FEMA, and don't try to get in the way of North Carolina mountain people and when we are trying to take care of each other. You should also know I had a shipment trying to go in last night that got stopped because somebody wanted to inventory it. So we diverted that one elsewhere to get it into the hands of an apartment complex of seniors that had been neglected. So thank you to the friend of mine who alerted me to that complex and to the other friend who took this load up. And by the way, got to spend the night at the apartment of somebody who was just willing to help out.
FEMA wants to inventory a load. That's a priority.
The biggest thing you have to know here is that neighbors are looking after neighbors. And when FEMA's in the way, don't think you're going to stop us, because that's basically like a Satan roadblock, and God will find a way because God always wins. The other thing I want y'all to know is that we do have support from all over the country. We've got NYPD, fire departments, we've got linemen and emergency personnel, and we in North Carolina are very grateful that you have chosen to come help us. So thank you to them, but boo to the government agencies that want to get in the way. And by the way, got to add one more thing. The announcement today that this little tiny piddling amount of money is going to go to people impacted by this storm. Are you kidding me? I told y'all before, you cannot eat money or drink money. Why are we not seeing massive supply drops come in? And I mean massive. The government is run by my taxpayer dollars and your taxpayer dollars. They are a net consumer, not a producer. So whatever they're throwing out there comes from me. As a taxpaying citizen, DC, quit trying to buy us off, because you can't buy us for $750 anyway. How about you send in the water we need, send in some ATVs, send in some more chainsaws and fuel, and let us take care of our people and get out of the way, because Western North Carolina is going to pull through this, whether you get in our way or not.
We had the Berlin airlift in the 50s. We managed to get needed supplies and critical equipment in. This is the United States in 2024.
I don't even know when. 3 years ago. It was right after Joe Biden got into office. Let me share something that we told you about at that time. I'm just going to quote from the monologue. Here we go. In the first few days of the Biden presidency, a flurry of executive orders were issued. This one is worth looking at. Number 14008, tackling the climate crisis at home and abroad. Take a look at Section 104, where Biden reinstated an Obama-era initiative called the Presidential Memorandum of September 21st, 2016, Climate Change and National Security. You can see just how far Trump set them back. They've been planning this one for more than 6 years, and the next line in the order gives a hint on what Pillar 1 is all about. Quote, taking a government-wide approach to the climate crisis. Much of this and what all of it means is still coming out, but we're starting to see how the government is planning to make an end run around the Constitution, and bureaucracy is how they're going to do it. We found this academic paper written by a climate activist professor several years ago. It proposes that FEMA could be weaponized to, instead of being reactionary to natural disasters, proactively it could operate as some sort of Green New Deal enforcer. If, quoting the paper, if the moment is seized, the current crisis and any renewed attention it may bring to the emergency management can be an opportunity to recast it as more vital and strategic component in the future political landscape. The paper laments FEMA's previous restrictions when it comes to liberty and their reluctance to, quote, impose limitations on private property. So what they're saying is this: in this is, well, let me quote directly from the FEMA government website: integrating sustainability into recovery. It was updated July 22nd, 2020. I'm quoting from the monologue from about 3 years ago. This is being set in motion during the final months of the Trump administration, and they say there's no such thing as the deep state. This is one of their guides that actually is linked back to the Department of Energy, going green from the ground up. The first section says it all: out of crisis, opportunity. Keep in mind, this isn't from a congressional committee. This is from an unelected bureaucracy, FEMA, and the Department of Energy. They will rebuild society in whatever image they want. As you scroll through the FEMA website, it looks familiar for people who have been following this stuff. It looks like a near carbon copy of the United Nations Agenda 2030, the Agenda for Sustainable Development. And the 17 sustainable goals are another common carbon copy of what the Davos crew are saying about the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. It is all the same. And our own government is quietly pushing ahead without your vote, your knowledge, or your consent. What they're saying is, if you actually like or need your high carbon footprint job, if you work in the oil and gas industry, car industry, coal industry, 95% of blue collar work, or literally anything they don't like, too bad. The new U.S. government bureaucratic Great Reset believes that liberty is a liability. Private property is, quote, a limitation. So what could be happening in Chimney Rock is FEMA, and I told you this the other day when I quoted the 3 goals now of FEMA. I said they're not an emergency management, get in there first and make sure everybody's okay. That's not what they do anymore. On their own website are the first 3 goals.
Equity is goal number 1.
Equity, goal number 1.
And they have as subtitles in that a diverse workforce.
FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. Goal number 1, equity. Not saving you, not providing equipment and supplies. Equity is job 1. If you take nothing else out of this show, take this. The federal government is not a first responder. FEMA is not a first responder. They're not in your neighborhoods. They're dispatched out of D.C. They get there when they get there, and not before. You are tasked with saving you. There is no other. Your local police department, more importantly, your local sheriff's department, should be tasked with figuring out, in an emergency, what do we do? To which people do we turn? To what equipment supply and management paradigm? How do we get the things that are necessary without electricity and power? FEMA is not a first responder. The federal government is not here to save you. They took all the motels because they have to stay somewhere. Just remember, the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans.
Of course. Their number 1 listed
number 1 goal of our emergency management is now equity.
Equity.
Hey, you want to keep voting for more of this, right? I mean, go Kamala.
I'm like, you almost want to say, is this like some subset of FEMA?
No,
is this like,
no,
is it some, hey, this is our plan for diversity or something? Like, no, it is just legitimately their strategic plan, goal 1, equity. 1.1 is diverse workforce. Then you have a people first approach, and then equitable outcomes. Again, outcomes.
Yeah. So reason number 1 would be, these are, this Appalachia is full of a lot of white people, and the people who are affected are a lot of white hicks They've had their time. Okay, that could be the thinking logically, and without them thinking that's a bad thing, because they really truly believe this. Okay, so they're not going in to help because it's not for equity. We got to get those people out because of goal number 2.
Goal 2 is climate resilience.
Mm-hmm. Now, what this means is...
Stop just for a minute. We could go into the whole thing. I have another 30 tabs and 30 videos more to play for you. I just want you to understand and to see that you are not a priority. Saving you is not a priority. Saving Americans is not a priority. Now I want you to see what's actually occurring. Watch this. This is reality here. How do you fix that?
In the early 2000s, they were back-to-back hurricanes that hit. They come up through the Gulf Stream, and of course, that's when we get the rain. I've crossed this actual bridge, and water be bumping the bottom. But as you can see, the main current took over and washed this road out. I was born and raised just right up the road at Sunnyview. I live in Green Creek now. I'm trying to get to my 91-year-old grandmother, just make sure she's okay. My father lives up here. His wife's out of town in Colorado now, so it's just kind of, there's no cell service. I can't. And then another thing, too, is I got a daughter at Western Carolina and a daughter at Mars Hill, and I have not talked to them since 10 o'clock yesterday. So.
But FEMA wants you to register for $750 online, or to use your phone or your tablet or a computer. And if you inquire, well, as we've seen before, you may get turned down.
Dad's getting a little excited. There's probably 50 trees blocking my neighbor from coming out. I started helping them yesterday. The neighbors at the other end of the road, we got us out, but the other neighbors are trapped. Our little area and community, when you get the people like us, we work together. We're not stepping over each other. We're not jumping lines to buy the last candy bar. That's the way the world needs. We need community back.
Let me stop here just for a moment. One of the things I want you to take away from this is not just the indifference of your federal government at times, and certainly through FEMA, and now that you know what their priorities are, and it's not you, who's the first responder? You are. And your neighbors, and your sheriff's department, and the people that are local. It's not electricity. It's not electric cars. It's not credit cards. They will not save you in an emergency. And I also want you to know and understand that if this can happen there, what's to say it can't happen to you, wherever you are, or to me, if whomever you are, or wherever your locale happens to be, you are not politically correct. How do you come back from that? Where do you even start?
There's a creek behind the apartment that I stay in, and it was flooding the banks and not going under the highway like it should. So I got up, power went out, cell phone went out that early that morning, and so there's no way to talk to anyone. Some of the neighbors came and knocked on doors, and we sort of communicated with each other, pouring in the rain. I walked across the street to go check on a house that is a friend of mine's, and the water was at least 10 feet up from where it should be. Water in basements, water pushing boats through roofs of boathouses, debris, just all of people's toys and furniture was just floating out there. It was pretty devastating. I've never seen anything quite like it.
This man is lucky. He appears to still have something of a house.
This is the basement. Oh.
Maybe I take that back.
I don't think I or anyone else living here expected to see what we saw, the devastation that we saw, except for those, I'm sure, who were close to the rushing water.
Really crazy.
When you turn the corner and you see your community just full of buildings and trash and floating boathouses and floating homes, it just sort of takes your breath away. And it was scary.
Lake Lure, by the way, was particularly hard hit.
I own Lake Lure Marine. We do the marine repair here. We live on the river going out of town, so we kind of see both ends of it. They started dropping the lake level a couple days ago, trying to keep ahead of the storm, but it just overran everything. And it flooded at our place maybe 25 feet over most of our property. But the sirens all went off. We kind of knew because the sirens, we lost cell phones, we lost power, everything. We were able to move up to higher ground and stay out of the water anyways. It only was up for maybe 8 hours or so, then it went back down. We were lucky enough. We got all of our animals out. Everybody got out. It was okay. So we got boat carnage everywhere, but that's it. We're living it.
Someone sent to me in chat, and let me continue as I turn this down. Someone sent to me in chat, why are you doing this? And it's a long series of very depressing videos. I wouldn't disagree. And I replied to one person in one chat and another person, Dub, in another chat. One of the major reasons I'm doing this is because it's not entirely impossible that these original videos, these source videos, will somehow magically disappear. And I want people to remember these sights and sounds. And I remember what happened here. And to remember who's responsible, who's not responsible, and the relationship with your loving government. Let's continue. The fact that your government lied to you up front is critically important, because as we continue to progress tonight, I'm going to bring up some other very important issues. So please, thank you for watching. Please keep watching. Because I have to tell you that, let's stop this. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans.
On the heroic efforts and unrelenting bravery of the helicopter pilot and his family who attempted rescue on my uncle and who did successfully rescue my Aunt Susan, not about the response from the Lake Laura Assistant Fire Chief. However, I do believe in the context of the situation, it's important to talk about both. This is my Uncle Mike. My Uncle Mike and his wife Susan were in Chimney Rock, North Carolina when Hurricane Helene struck. They had just closed on their new house a few weeks prior and were enjoying the mountain air, the river, and just being outside and loving life. And then, like so many other people across the East Coast, their house was just gone. The cliff that their house was on overlooking the water was also gone, if that puts in perspective the extent of damage. They barely had remnants of a driveway. They were sleeping in their car. Between them for 2 days, all they had was 2 bottles of water and 2 bags of chips. They didn't have any other food or water. They couldn't find anyone to help rescue them. They wrote SOS with rocks in the side of a cliff, and they were losing hope, but really trying to stay positive. So needless to say, when they waved down the helicopter that was being operated by Jordan Sedum and his son Landon, who is 14, by the way, they were overjoyed and filled with relief that someone finally stopped. For background, Jordan Sedum is, of course, a licensed helicopter pilot. He's a volunteer firefighter. He works in law enforcement, and he got multiple clearances to fly into the area. There were no flight restrictions on the area. He coordinated with air traffic control. He was coordinating with local responders. All was good to go. Another reason his help was so essential, from what I can understand, there's only specific kinds of aircrafts that could even really get into the area where my aunt and uncle, along with many others, were stranded. They had already gotten people to safety successfully, and they even slept in a pilot lounge nearby so that they could be ready to help the next day, which is just, I am just humbled and honestly at a loss for words by their bravery and their generosity to do this and fund this, by the way, out of their own pocket for people that they don't even know. Jordan and his son landed the helicopter. They got my Aunt Susan. They were concerned about the weight of the helicopter, essentially. So it sounded like Jordan only wanted one other person in the helicopter. So he left his 14-year-old son with my uncle. They took my Aunt Susan to the rescue site first, and then they were going to come back for my uncle. I want you to understand the ride from where my uncle was stranded to safety, which is where there were different rescue teams and paramedics, etc., was a 3-minute helicopter ride. 3 minutes. When Jordan lands with my Aunt Susan at the safety site, he explained who he was, his credentials, who he'd been coordinating with, air traffic control, law enforcement, first responders. And some people were really grateful for the help and started giving him directions. But then the assistant fire chief told him, in short, that if he continued to interfere with his operation, that he would be arrested. Jordan essentially tried to de-escalate and was like, okay, got it. I will just go get the victim, my Uncle Mike, and my son. I'll bring the victim to safety. We'll be out of your hair. And the guy said he wasn't allowed to do that either. He had to leave his minor son stranded on the side of a cliff in the middle of a hurricane, basically. Jordan obviously wasn't about to do that. So he did go back and get his son. And then he had to deliver the news to my uncle that he had to leave him there without my Aunt Susan, alone. And I'm just going to show you the clip from an interview of Queen City News with my uncle, because I think that's the only thing that can really capture the anguish that everyone was feeling in that moment.
We need to see this. We need to keep this. We need to remember it. We need to keep this close to our heart. The best predictor of future performance, or the lack thereof, is past behavior.
When I got to the door, He said, I am so sorry, but I'm told if I bring you back that I'm going to be arrested and I can't take you back with me. And in fact, I was told I couldn't come get my co-pilot, my son. I just told him I'm not going to leave my son here. He said, I am so sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but I need to take my son and we're going to leave. And they've told me they're aware of where you are and you will be rescued. He takes off. I had no idea where my wife was. I couldn't comprehend what was going on. Like, how did this make sense? And when, if ever, I was going to be reunited with her, or how long it would take for some other rescue crew to get back to me. So that was the most stressful part of the whole experience. I can watch my house go. I can watch our neighbors' houses go. We were together, right? And we knew each other was safe. And when he left, that thought, right, just kind of disappeared. Like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen from here.
I'll make a part 2 to talk about how my uncle did eventually get to safety by swimming across the river with his cat Cleo, as well as the response we got from the town manager about the fire chief's actions in threatening Jordan Seedham's arrest.
Why do we have to be there? Why do we have to do that? Why are there people who do this, who attempt to interfere as much as they possibly can? Let's continue.
Did $130 million for SSP in FY25, yet
this is Mayorkas.
Homeland Security has acknowledged that the demand already exceeds the $650 million that has been appropriated in fiscal year 24. Why is the SSP budget request so low compared to previous years?
Senator, thank you for...
Okay, please understand, as it says there, the SSP is the Shelter and Services Program for illegal invaders, folks, not for you.
Recognizing the extraordinary work of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security. I believe we requested $830 million, if I'm not mistaken, but in FY25, I'll have to drill down on that. I should note that the bipartisan Senate legislation would have funded the SSP program at $1.3 billion. We make very difficult trade-offs in the context of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. There is no question that the demand for funds exceeds the amount of funds we have been provided, and that is why we are so careful in the allocation of resources. We issued our first tranche under the SSP.
Tranche. Let me stop right there. That's how you know that's a weasel, and those are weasel words. Mayorkas has been a part of the deep state for multiple decades. He knows how to parse his words and hide his funding because he's in charge of it. And so when the federal government tells you, oh, none of this happened, listen to this guy. The parsing. Let us continue.
We announced the issuance of that first tranche, and our next tranche will be under a competitive process.
The next tranche. Well, what about, one moment. I have something about from Michael Flynn that I guess you didn't expect, but he actually has something relevant to say here.
General, thank you so much for making the time for us today. Big questions that we have that can only be answered by someone with your pedigree. Yeah. Where is the American military as Americans are suffering and dying? I'll preface this by saying our sources on the ground tell us that there are hundreds of bodies, American bodies, still buried in mudslides, and thousands of Americans that could potentially perish still in this storm. Where is the American military?
And what haven't we seen in any of the videos up to this point? The American military.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I want to...
Oh, you'll see them. just a few minutes from now.
Cover, and Nick Sortor is unbelievable, and being on the ground there and doing what he's doing. I mean, talk about courage. So let me take it to the big picture first, because and then I will take it down to North Carolina and what should be done, what should immediately be done, and we're already a week too late. So big picture, we have over 100 counties, probably around 150 counties, from Apalachicola, Florida, all the way up to the Appalachian Mountains of Western North Carolina. So probably looking at 150 counties, in various states that are in a complete disaster zone. And so this is a federal emergency of epic proportions, of biblical proportions, that the federal government has been totally absent. Okay. I mean, absent. And I have folks that I'm working with right now, and I'll talk a little bit about what we did in North Carolina, what's going on in North Carolina, because people out around the country are, frankly, some around the world are asking where they can help, but certainly people around the country. So the big picture is we got about at least 150 counties that are in a total disaster zone, from northern Florida all the way up to in parts of Tennessee and, of course, North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's over 1,000 dead that have been confirmed to me, with just the body bags that have been filled. There are insufficient numbers of body bags, so there are dead bodies lying aside, and this is mainly up in North Carolina, that is already pushing over 1,000. My guess is that by the time we look at all of what has happened, we're going to be probably somewhere around 2,000 or north of 2,000 dead people. There are still people caught up in the hills of North Carolina and eastern Tennessee that their towns were completely wiped out.
Okay, let me stop here for just a moment. One of the places, the points to which I'm streaming is YouTube. I just indicated and I just requoted General Flynn by writing 1,000 dead. There will be more. YouTube will not let that comment go out. Censorship, anyone? Another reason, another in a continuing series of 453,321 reasons why I despise YouTube, Facebook, and many other points of social media. They don't want you to hear and see the truth. And I mentioned censorship. We'll keep going. By the way, I should tell everyone, I hope you're in this for the long haul, because I still have quite a number of videos yet to go, and I want this to be the one point, if nowhere else, a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, you can come back somewhere to this video and actually see and hear the truth without it being scrubbed by censorship.
They're totally isolated. Homes are gone. And one of the things I want people to understand is that one of the things that you consider for humanitarian disaster recovery and relief operations, one of the first things you look at is the terrain and the weather conditions that are impending, right? So at nighttime right now up in the mountains of North Carolina, I'm very familiar with this area. I've trained up in there. I've been up in there many times in my experiences in the military, especially at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I won't call it the other name, but Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which I will talk to in a second here with the potential deployment of other resources that the government has. So the weather conditions right now are wet. They are, because it's misty at nighttime, it rains at night. We're looking at weather temperatures that are in the low 30s. And in another week or two, certainly by the end of this month, we're going to start to see freezing conditions, possibly even an early snow in the mountains of North Carolina, where these people are still walking around with nothing. So because I want to talk about what types of resources need to be brought to bear and the things that I know that are being done. So the big picture is we're going to probably be north of 2,000 dead. We have at least 150 counties, maybe 200 counties from northern Florida all the way up into western North Carolina that are in this disaster zone. The federal government has done nothing.
And that's true, primarily. Oh, except maybe get in the way. Wait, let me back up here. Remember I just spoke about censorship? Consider in toto what I have discussed and shown you tonight. And now consider this.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram.
Listen very closely what she says about control.
Or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not.
Okay, who's we? Democrats, leftists, and globalists. She doesn't mean anyone else. She doesn't mean you. She doesn't mean me. She means leftists lose control unless we censor. Another reason they don't want you to see and understand what occurred due to Hurricane Helene. Understand what's occurring. These people are talking now. They're saying the bad parts out loud. They have no fear now, which is why you're hearing this.
Not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
It's harm for you to know what's going on. Again, like I say, that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this show tonight. You need to see the results, the consequences of these actions and inactions.
My name is Casey Webb. I'm from Swannanoa, North Carolina. I lost everything I have. I just did an inspection with FEMA last night. They told me that I was denied and post-dated my letter for the 5th of October when my inspection was done on the 4th. They have not seen receipts. They have not seen pictures or anything of the things that were in my home and denied me. We have still failed to receive a $750 check. The rooms that FEMA wants you to go stay in during the time of your disaster relief are in Newport, Tennessee, which they sent 500 people there and then it flooded. I will be in Asheville all day long. If anybody wants to link up with me and talk about what's going on, inbox me and let me know. This is disgusting. I've never seen the government fail us worse.
This is your government at work. This is FEMA at work. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. You're not in their future. Let's listen to this young lady as well.
So the more I'm looking into this whole situation, the worse it's getting. We really need to talk about what's happening in North Carolina specifically. I don't know if this is happening in other areas. I've only heard about North Carolina. My mom lives in North Carolina. She's not too far away from what happened. She lost power for about 4 days, but like everything is fine. Their roads were fine. But there are areas where that's not the case. Right now, in particular, Chimney Rock has been told that their entire town is federal property now. They can't even go back to their homes. There are bodies that are laying in the water. There are bodies that are laying under trees and in the debris, and they can't get to their family members. The federal government has said that that land and all of those bodies are now federal property. The federal government is not wanting to identify any of the bodies. They're just wanting to bulldoze over it and not even count how many people this natural disaster, if you want to call it that.
Okay, stop just a minute. Does this sound like the federal government and Democrats, leftists and globalists? This is part and parcel of them attempting to memory hole you. We've already forgotten about East Palestine in Ohio, the toxic rail spill. We've already forgotten about Lahaina, Maui, the wildfires. They're going to do their very level best that you forget about everything that occurred as a result of Hurricane Helene. We're not even talking about Milton yet. Continue.
Has caused. Furthermore, people who are trapped and who are getting shipments of supplies. There was a pastor that was going door to door handing out water, and the request changed from water to body bags. They need body bags, and the feds aren't picking up the bodies. They're literally leaving them to rot. So just imagine for a second, you have lost everything, literally everything. You have no food, you have no water, and your family member who perished is literally rotting beside you. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that the federal government is doing about it. You can't even get a body bag to put your family member in so that the stench stops spreading. Like, how is this America? How is this America? There are people who have been without food and water for 6 days. The 82nd National Guard has been begging to go in and help these people, and the federal government has told them to stand down. Something evil is going on in the mountains, and we really need to talk about it. We need to put pressure on Washington to get our people the help that they need before it's too late. For some people, it already is too late. Please share this message. Please share any sort of resources that you can in the comments below. I'll be making videos here and over on my main page, which has almost 2,000 followers. We need to get help to these people as soon as possible. If you've heard about anything else, please leave it in the comments as well. As always, I look forward to hearing your thoughts about all this down below. My thoughts, my prayers, and my heart goes out to everyone affected.
But of course, there's a lot more. Again, let me back up here, because you need to understand, as the show title indicates, the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans, and they're proving it.
What's happening? We're at the airport again. Well, we're at the airport today. Yesterday, they ran like 30-something planes, a bunch of trips up to Western North Carolina, Asheville, you know, that whole area, wherever they can land and drop off supplies. And FEMA has flown in like 10 or more helicopters and blocked a runway here at Greenville downtown. Completely took over, or almost took over, the operation.
What's the point of that?
Just because they're doing some good here, FEMA's going to come here and try to stop it. And they took over one of the hangars over here too. We'll show you as much as we can. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, here's the helicopters that are blocking one of the runways here at Greenville downtown. All flown in by FEMA helicopter pilots. And they're just sitting there doing nothing. And you have Greenville Aviation over here taking in all kind of supplies, everything that people want to drop off. There's a huge operation going on over here. Yesterday we ran about 30-something planes, or they did, I didn't fly anything, but just putting stuff in planes, taking it up to Asheville and other areas, and they came in and halted. FEMA came in and halted all that operation. And there they are, just sitting over there doing nothing. When there's thousands of pounds of supplies over there that could be taken, they're just sitting there doing nothing and blocking the runway with however many helicopters.
That's what FEMA apparently thinks of you. That's what the Harris-Biden admin happens to think of you. Let's listen to this other lady now as well.
Please watch this video to the end. It's all I ask of you. Please watch this video to the
It's
end.
low.
Do not
The
pass
volume is
judgment.
up as far as I
Listen
can
to
get
every
it.
single word that I say. My name is Cassandra. I live in a little town called Spruce Pine, North Carolina, that was directly affected by Hurricane Helene. Anybody in their right mind thinking that outside people should not be speaking on what the government has done or is not doing to our area is insanity to me. As someone who is here at Ground Zero in Mitchell County, North Carolina, it is going to take you as the creators on this app to speak up to get us help here. Because I will tell you, our government is not doing a damn thing
And that's why I'm here tonight.
for us. They are not doing anything. I have had 3 tractor and trailers from Florida denied entry. I have had 2 trucks of supplies coming from West Virginia denied entry. Now you tell me that people don't have the right to speak on our area? You're wrong. They do. We need people on this app to speak up and do something and help us. And I say us, I am blessed. God, am I blessed. My power came back on last night. I've got a little bit of cell phone service. I'm at Walmart. I don't have water. It'll probably be months, but you know what? I am blessed. I am blessed. My house is intact. There is people that have died, that are gone. There is families that don't know where their loved ones are. There is babies, children that have died. So anytime you want to cancel someone for speaking about what our government is not doing in the Appalachian Mountains, you think about that. You think about these babies and these loved ones that will never see their person again.
But that's okay, because the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. Let me stop this. This is a fairly lengthy video, which I may stop after about 2 minutes. I just sort of wanted you to get the gist of this.
Holmes Creek Road during the day, but at 6 o'clock they're stopping, so then they're opening it up at night. That's how we got through last night. When we came back today, we found out it was closed, so it takes an hour and a half, but I think it took us like 2 hours to get around. You got to go over a big mountain, and it's stupid scary.
And again, this is as loud as I can make it.
We went down there to pull security for the Pensacola Fire Department. They had 2 different sites.
They asked us to be there.
Yeah. They had 2 different sites, one on each side of the town, which was destroyed. We were making runs back and forth with 4-wheelers. They did have Starlink at both sites initially, so we could communicate the here end with each other.
Okay, somebody had asked earlier, was Elon Musk's Starlink denied? Yes, at first, but he was able to get receivers into a number of locations, and this confirms.
But that got shut down. Through the night, we had people get arrested, so we were active security. We were trying to keep looters out. We were chasing looters out in the middle of the night.
So they had a cop. They had a cop on site.
They did have some sheriff. Yeah, the sheriffs were doing the arresting. Okay. The intent for them was to move everything at the fire department because it was so full of supplies over to the other site where we were at, which is about a 5-acre chained-in fence. And then it just never happened. People started showing up. Nobody knew what was going on. We were just pulling security at that point. We got the National Guard down there. They were really helpful in facilitating unloading supplies and moving stuff around. A tent showed up, and then it just died. One of my trips back over to the fire department, I was like, I thought we were getting ready to move, and they were still setting stuff up. So at some point, I'm not going to comment on what FEMA did or didn't do, but it got stalled. And that's when we decided that we were no longer value added. We still had security. There were sheriffs there. And so we pulled out.
I'm going to stop the video at this point because I still have quite a number of videos yet to go that I want everybody to see. But essentially at this point, what you're seeing and hearing is that FEMA is displaying not just indifference, but intent in making sure people don't get to the supplies. Why? Why would that be? There's only one word: control.
That was the scariest fucking thing I've ever done in my life. Grovestone Mountain in Asheville is now fucking unpassable. I'm probably the last truck will ever make it up there. That was crazy. I cannot believe I made it. Verizon told me I wouldn't make it. I got a bunch of friends that tried, and all of them went away and didn't make it. Well, near Grovestone in Asheville, you got 4 days of power up there. I gave every single drop. I even pulled back out of my personal tank. It's a 210-gallon tank, and I gave it everything I had. And
this guy pulled fuel out of his big gas tanks to assist.
The needle was below E when I got there, and both the city and Verizon techs and even people, neighbors and stuff, were like, "There's no way you're going to make it." Well, motherfucker, I made it there and back. So eat shit. You hear me fucking now? That's my tower.
Let's stop this here just for a moment so that everyone can understand and hear where we are tonight.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm BZ. You're watching and listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. The story tonight is about the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans, and I am showing you continuing proof that this is true. I don't need to make this up. This is not me spouting off. These are videos that I'm immuring in this show to illustrate my point. Let's please continue.
It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants. It's just
to support humanitarian relief for migrants. Did you watch the beginning of my show? And at the beginning of my show, DC said, everything that essentially I'm going to show you from the beginning of my show is an abject naked lie. Here's another naked lie. Do you remember Mayorkas, who said, I'm sorry, FEMA has no more funding? And now, from Fox Business, Mayorkas says FEMA has nothing left in the budget, nothing more left in the tank. Certainly not for you assholes the victims of Hurricane Helene. But the Inspector General report says the agency, FEMA, is sitting on billions of dollars. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas faces, rightly so, a new firestorm of criticism for claiming FEMA is out of disaster funds, right as the DHS Inspector General released a report saying FEMA is sitting on at least $8.3 billion in untapped, unspent funds. The government is lying to you. They've lied from the start. They're continuing to lie to you. To your face. They don't care. Let's continue.
So much is going viral online as well. One user suggested yesterday that a militia should go against FEMA, got more than 500,000 views. What kind of impact has this had on the recovery effort?
It has a tremendous impact on the comfort level of our own employees to be able to go out there, but it's also demoralizing to all of the first responders that have been out there in their communities.
Stop. I have an answer to that. Don't you? Continue.
Is helping people, FEMA staff, volunteers, the private sector that are working side by side with local officials to go out and help people. I need to make sure I can get the resources to where they're needed. And when you have this dangerous rhetoric like you're hearing, it creates fear in our own employees. We need to make sure we're getting help to the people who need it.
Do you think this is dangerous rhetoric? I have 3 words for FEMA. If they don't want to find themselves in that sort of a terrible, judgmental predicament, my suggestion is do your job. And I told you it would get down to this. I'm going to show you this article from Fox News. My Appalachia family survived Helene. We need to ensure they can still vote. Postal disruptions and communication problems jeopardize voting for Appalachian areas hit by Helene. So this man continues into recognizing that voting, because, it is, after all, October 10th, well, If you're on the East Coast, it's October 11th. But that's an important point. Well, how important a point is it? This is how important a point it is. David Axelrod just said another quiet part out loud from Fox News via Yahoo. Axelrod says upscale North Carolina Harris voters will find a way to vote after the storm. Well, he's not sure about rural Trump fans. So David Axelrod argued that VP Kamala Harris voters will be clever enough to navigate voting in the wake of the devastation from Hurricane Helene, while saying that rural Trump voters will have a harder time getting to the polls. He may as well have just said something similar to, "You uneducated rubes. You are absolutely nothing more than uneducated rubes." Let's see if I can bring this back. And here, let's listen to him say this. One moment. David Axelrod.
Sure, a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in Western North Carolina in the mountains there are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign. Sure.
And he says that, of course, with a certain amount of glee in his voice. Now, it was said, alleged, that, and when I first saw this, I thought, okay, I can believe a lot of things. I'm not sure that I can truly believe this. Before I put anything like this on the air tonight, I want to see something about it. I want to see something immured in some kind of an article. I don't want to just hear about it. I want to see a semblance of proof. Here's the New York Post. FEMA abandons a devastated North Carolina town and their residents because it can't drive around a road closed sign. And the bottom line is nobody's been bringing in supplies except civilians. So residents of a tiny North Carolina town that was almost totally destroyed by Hurricane Helene have been fending for themselves after FEMA told them that a road closed sign is an insurmountable obstacle for the agency to navigate. I don't have to make any of this stuff up. All I have to do is show you the video and audio proof that this is actually occurring. That's a thing with FEMA. And you saw it there. And then, of course, we heard some more lies. We heard lies from KJP, the binder. And notice how in this, when I play it, blame is levied against first the question. How dare you question the binder? And of course, the questioner, because you always make it personal. This is what an attorney does. When you don't have the facts, you attack the accuser with the facts. Take it away, Peter Ducey and KJP.
To the impacted areas. But instead, people want to do disinformation, misinformation, which is dangerous, because then when folks on the ground hear that, they may not want to ask for the help that they need. That is there for them. That's our focus here.
But President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for
His
people
values,
in North Carolina who need it. That's not misinformation.
Wait, no, that is your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir.
Turn the question around on the questioner, deny everything. This is what a good little communist would do.
What you do? Yes, yes,
Which
it's
part?
misinformation.
Is there money to
I just
spend
mentioned.
right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than
And not answering the question, of course.
$200 million to folks who are impacted in the area. And I just shared with you that people are deciding not to. People are deciding not to. Not wait.
To Congress that there's not enough money to help people
We're
in North
talking
Carolina
about the SBA disaster loan.
That's
Yes.
money for people in North
Wait,
Carolina.
And that's important. And people in North Carolina need that. Wait, this is nothing new. Peter, this is nothing new. Congress comes together, they provide money, millions of dollars for disaster relief. We're asking them to do the job that they have been doing for some time.
From a letter that President Biden
doing
sent to
for some
Johnson, McConnell,
time.
Schumer, and Jeffries. The president's letter is not misinformation. Would you agree?
No, the way you're asking me the question is misinformation. There is
How you phrase a question is evil. And bottom line is, just like I said before, what needs to occur? He needs to be removed and censored.
money
Just like me, just like you.
that we are allocating to the impacted areas. And there's money there to help people who truly need it. There are survivors who need the funding, and it's there.
That you don't like misinformation.
I said that, I actually said we have the money available to help survivors of Hurricane Helene and also Hurricane Milton. Now, there's going to be a shortfall, right? Because we don't know how bad Hurricane Milton is going to be. And so we're going to need additional funding.
That's exactly what I just asked about. And you said it was misinformation. Yes.
What you're asking me is why Congress needs to come back and do their job. That's what you're asking me. Congress needs to come back and do their job and provide extra assistance, extra funding to disaster relief fund. That's what Congress needs to do. And we're going to continue to urge that. You may not want that, but that's okay. That's what this president wants. And that's what the vice president wants. Thanks.
And then, of course, she walks away. I've got a communist in my chat, Agolf Twittier, who says actual Americans do not support Vladimir Putin like MAGA commies do. Well, let's see. Agolf, who supports Kamala Harris, Cammy the Cackler? Well, that would be Putin and Iran. And she couldn't even get the support of the firefighters union. And she couldn't get the support of the dock workers. That says quite a bit. Actually, Agolf, it's leftists who are the commies and the cockholsters of Vladimir Putin. And do you know why people like myself don't support Ukraine? Because Ukraine happens to be Biden's laundromat. And that happens to be quite factual. Let's continue. Now, I said MAGA commies, Agolf. My. I mentioned the military. Well, here is the military doing what the military should not be doing. So, essentially, a government helicopter flew towards a Cajun Navy volunteer supply drop in North Carolina and blew their supplies all over the parking lot. And you cannot tell me that an Army helicopter pilot who has passed training doesn't know what's going to happen when he comes low to the ground and then puts his helicopter into what is called ground effect. Well, let's watch. Misinformation about the military, unless it happens to be on video. Keep watching. This pilot knows exactly what he's doing. And what's the point of hovering over a supply dump? The point is, there is no point. me stop this for a second and read this. 40 minutes prior to this, two unmarked blacked out SUVs running blue lights rolled in, circled around, and immediately left. They were not local law enforcement, not anyone we had been affiliated with. Then comes this helicopter. And here's the result. Do you possibly think that a professional Army pilot in ground effect has absolutely no idea what he or she is doing? And now it's on video. And now it's on my show. And you can actually see it. Let's stop. Let's continue. By the way, here's another illustration. Now, when I continue with this, let's turn it on. I'll turn the volume down low. The Chinook is the heaviest, largest helicopter in the U.S. Army inventory. And again, you can't tell me that the pilot and co-pilot of this helicopter don't know what hovering does, especially with a helicopter that large that's in ground effect. Oh, this never happened, BZ. Well, maybe it did. Here's the video. So stop. You're going to attempt to tell me that these professionally trained pilots didn't know what their rotor wash would do. I should say rotor wash would do. Where did the funds come from? Where did the funds go? If you can't read the small print here, and I'm going to put this up as a graph in just a moment, FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund monthly report reveals that nearly $4 billion was spent on COVID-19 aid in September of 2024, the most of any month since October 2023. Why? Billions of dollars are being spent on a pandemic that's been over for years, while Helene's victims are struggling. This is the Harris-Biden regime hating actual Americans. Here's the chart. If you want to clip this or take a screenshot of it later on from the video, here's the information. You can stop and look at it. I'll leave this up for a few more seconds to give you some time for a screenshot if you wish, or come back and watch the video later. But wait, there's more. Here's another individual. Let's see if I can play this. And let's go ahead.
Ever step foot in these Appalachian Mountains and hiked them, we need you here. We need foot. We need people on foot. If you have ever hiked the Rocky Mountains, get here. We need you. We need people experiencing hiking. There's only a few ways to these people. It is to foot, horseback, or helicopter. Dirt bikes, ATVs, side-by-sides. If you have them and can get to East Tennessee or Western North Carolina, we need you. Do not listen to the news when they tell you that they don't want you, they don't need you. I'm telling you, I am here. I live here. I have been already. I'm telling you, we need you. We want you here. The hell with what FEMA says. The hell with what American Red Cross says. They're not here. I'm telling you, they're not here helping. It's been a week and they're not here. We need manpower. So if you are an experienced hiker, we need you in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina. If you are experienced dirt biker, we need you. If you are experienced in ATVs, side-by-sides, four-wheelers, whatever, we need you. We cannot get automobiles up in there. Trucks is not an option. Cars is not an option. If you own private helicopters, we need you. If they threaten to arrest you, we got you as the American people. We need you. These people need saved. These bodies need to be brought down. It is not, if you have ever stepped foot in these Appalachian Mountains and hiked them, we need you here. We need foot. We need people on foot. If you have ever hiked the Rocky Mountains.
So that's what they need. And again, why is it that we're seeing a running theme tonight? And that's that FEMA appears to be going out of their way, not just to be indifferent, but to be intentionally obstructionist. Again, what sense does that make? The only conclusion that I can come to is power. It's about power and control. Who controls the ingress and the egress, which would logically end up as who gets kudos for this? The brilliant, wonderful FEMA from the Harris-Biden administration stepping in to save you rubes and hicks.
Cinderblock homes above water, intact, spinning, and then it hit this one. The neighbor there was on the second floor at that time, and there were waves hitting his feet from the river. We saw him exit the back of the home, or he saw him go into the home, but we didn't see him exit the back. And I think what had happened was we were looking for a pink shirt, and I think he might have put a coat or something on, or just for some reason we didn't see him go up the back, but he did escape. We thought he was dead for the last few days, but he's not.
So he headed off out into the woods, you think, up the hill?
That's the only way out.
And
he had to climb the mountain.
He rode out the winds and the river and everything in the woods.
Absolutely. All of these people on this road here, anybody that is alive on this road, which by the way, I've heard social media is saying like there are 8 dead in Spruce Pine. Maybe they have 8 confirmed bodies, but I have to tell you the truth here, folks. You can smell the bodies in certain places along the river. There were vultures out. They have marked, with they being the National Guard, have marked over 100 bodies in a 6-mile stretch of river. Possible bodies, just where they think they are. You can't see them, guys. The bodies, the smells, the things are either buried in sand or they're up in the trees and they're crushed in sediment.
Yeah, I just saw a chicken right there. You couldn't really tell. Like you'd smell something, but you saw flies.
Yeah. So
the National Guard, is there a lot of National Guard helping right here?
There weren't at first. The first 4 days, 3 to 4 days, we were down here by ourselves.
Yeah.
We were helping each other. The only way this entire thing got cleared to here by locals, by the local farmer and our neighbors. The evacuations that happened on this road were primarily started by myself and my neighbors and the local farmers on this road. And then the National Guard got here the day before yesterday. I'm so confused on my days because I haven't had internet or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But the National Guard did get here, and the National Guard, in collaboration with some fire and rescue folks, were able to help us airlift a 96-year-old couple that had dementia, and they needed to leave. They couldn't stay here. And so we were able to get choppers to them and get them out.
That's good.
But, people are still missing. They have, they are now bringing in body recovery teams. Their goal is to specifically get and retrieve bodies so that they can get them to the medical examiner and check their teeth records. So that process is really hard. And it's going to be really challenging. Like a gentleman handed me body bags, which I had body bags in my car all day yesterday. And I had to explain to him something that had to be explained to me, even as a rescuer. When I watched the National Guard and they confirmed that the smells I had been smelling were most likely bodies, I was like, well, where are they so I can get to them? You can't get to them. They're crushed in debris. They're up in trees. They're under sediment. They're under sand. Unfortunately, it will be a very long time before you find all these people that are missing. And I haven't even had internet, so I don't even know what the number is. And they don't have a number here yet because we're still getting communication.
And where is here generally? Would you call this Green Mountain?
This is called Red Hill.
Red Hill.
That's called Green Mountain.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. The county line was the river. The river's way wider.
Yeah.
So we're in both counties. It's changed.
Right.
A lot of folks kept asking me questions like the Swiftwater teams that were coming out. they weren't rescue again, they were recovery. They were asking me how deep the river is. As a outfitter, river outfitter, and a boater, we had like rocks that we use. We have landmarks that we use. They're gone. I can't tell you how deep the river is because I don't know. And every single water gauge on this river was knocked out by the flood. And we had a working water gauge during Hurricane Fred, and I've reported it broken since Hurricane Fred, but they never fixed it. So, and that was the only flood gauge for the entire Mitchell County.
Are those put out by like NOAA?
North Carolina Emergency Management is in charge of the gauges, and then they're supposed to get in touch with the state and tell the state when they're broken. But hey, I've only reported it to the state and North Carolina Emergency Management, the county, and the city of Mitchell County since Hurricane Fred, whatever year that was. And yeah, so we still don't have a working water gauge. We didn't during this event.
Wow.
It would have been nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the French Broad had water gauges, and I was telling people it's already here. It's going to be 10 times as high. Get away from this location.
Absolutely. Well, and by the time, I think that's an important thing. By the time I got that text this morning, go to high ground.
Yeah.
I got it yesterday.
And we're a week past the flood.
Correct. So that goes.
Let's stop right there. Did you hear what she said? A text that was sent some time ago was just received yesterday. And of course, the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans because as the people of the view, and I use that term loosely, Donald Trump is to blame for all of this.
Kamala, and I'm calling you Kamala because for all of those who are mispronouncing it, I want you all to know how to say it. But let's talk about something you would do different from Donald Trump. Right now, there is a monster storm barreling towards my state of Florida, a place that's still reeling from Hurricane Helene. Trump is lying, claiming that the Biden administration is intentionally withholding aid from the areas where Republicans live and that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants.
And so, of course, who's lying? Well, the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, or perhaps Joe Vegetable regime. But Democrats accuse you of whatever it is that they are doing, only they're doing it worse. I was going to play a good portion of this, but after a few more seconds, I really can't take this. I can't take the voice. It's like listening to either Fran Drescher or nails on a chalkboard.
Ironically, that is something he did in 2019. What do you think the effect of these lies are, and why is he doing this?
Well, it's
okay. I've had quite enough of the lies from that side. What about the local sheriffs? Somebody in chat said, hey, what about the local sheriffs, and how is that affecting them? Well, here's a local sheriff. And also, one of the few actual journalists left, Sarah Carter. Let's listen to her talk to a local sheriff, Sheriff Wright, and Sheriff Ellenberg in North Carolina regarding FEMA, what they think of FEMA.
I was going to say something about Biden and Harris.
Yes, what were you going to say? Oh.
But I don't like to curse. I'm scared there'll be little ears listening.
Well, and you've been up here. You've been up here for how long?
Just 2 days.
2 days.
Sheriff hadn't left, and he's doing a fantastic job. So
that's right. I mean, Sheriff, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for all you do. I'm going to definitely get this up on social media. And we're going live tonight with Sean Hannity. But if you had a message for the White House and how they've handled the situation up here.
Here we go.
In North Carolina, what would your message be, Sheriff Wright?
if you're going to do the things you've been talking about doing, we just assume you stay out of the way and let the good men and women around the mountain area and the foothills take care of our own, because you're nothing more than a boat anchor.
No help. FEMA hasn't been helpful.
Wait a minute. That lady that's running for president talks about the $750. What about all that money you give to Ukraine and all these other people that really want to kill us, don't want to do anything to help us? Why don't you just give that money to them? That's who you want to give it to begin with.
And a lot of people have been turned down for the $750. Almost everybody I've spoken to hasn't received any of the funding, and they've been turned down for personal items.
Well, they talked about get on your phone or your computer. Do you not see what the devastation is? They don't have a phone or a computer.
There's nothing up here. There's no communication. I'm going to be posting this later. There's no way to access the internet unless you have a Starlink net. And everybody's.
Thank you, Elon Musk, by the way.
There you go.
Yes, thank you,
come
Elon
send
Musk.
President Donald Trump, we need you.
What are the yes? That's a message for you, President Trump. And I was gonna ask you, what are the most affected areas that you've seen? Is this pretty much ground zero from what you've seen, or can you?
I think that'd be better for the sheriff here to answer for sure, because he knows this county a lot better than I do.
Here in Rutherford County, what are the most affected areas?
Almost certainly, Lake Lure and Chimney Rock is the most affected areas. We've had.
I mean, we're here in Chimney Rock, and I know they've been cleaning. What was Chimney Rock?
Yeah.
What was
But lower in the county, we've had a lot of damage, but nothing of this magnitude here.
This has just been devastating, and the people. For all of you out there, whatever you can do, whether it's Samaritan's Purse, whether you live in the area, Samaritan's Purse is.
Cut off of it. All these other people, that do use this on the blog.
So Samaritan's Purse, that's it. Samaritan's Purse. Come out here if they need. I heard you need more hands, more help, more manpower in some areas. So if you're living out in the area and you have special skills and you can help.
Let me tag on to that.
Okay.
Don't just show up saying I want to help. You get in touch with somebody and get some. They'll give you a code. They'll give you a person to be in contact with, because we know you want to help. But we have to vet you, because there's stuff laying around here that people's worked all their life for. We can't let a stranger come in here and just walk up and down
They
the
don't
street.
want looters. We're
We're not going to have looters. If you come over here and loot, just like in Spartanburg, you're not going to like us at all.
Don't come here and loot.
Rutherford County.
Don't come to Rutherford County if you're going to loot.
Don't bypass Rutherford and go to Spartanburg or Greenville County either, because we don't tolerate you either.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me. I'll be back out here tomorrow. I'll be back out here.
Sean Hannity and President Trump.
Plain talk from plain people. And I've always appreciated that and enjoyed that. Here are everyday Americans that are putting various lives back together. This isn't FEMA. This isn't anyone else but the locals. Again, proving the Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. And that continues. That isn't just a placid little creek rolling around underneath there. That's a very active creek. Let's watch this.
Above water, intact, spinning.
Oops, wrong one. Let's go to another. Now, I mentioned that there were soldiers involved, and here we see some in Fairview, North Carolina. How long? 8 days later. Let me say one thing. about the National Guard and the U.S. Army, save the helicopters. My guess is that all those men and women there in those trucks and those vehicles, they wanted desperately to be there, to be present for all the people in these critical areas. And my guess is that they were told, and it might be a while before we discover that they were told to stand down. Mark my words, you heard it here first. Now, this is a video, and I'm not far from wrapping up the show. I wanted you to see all of this here tonight. Here's Congressman Corey Mills talking with Glenn Beck, and they're talking to a FEMA representative and giving them essentially an opportunity to illustrate and state how it is that they're helping in North Carolina.
Hi.
Ma'am, how are you?
This is Patricia. Hi, Patricia. I'm Glenn. This is Congressman
Mills.
Hello.
How are you, ma'am?
Good.
So we're wondering, we just asked, when do you guys go door to door? He was telling that.
After we get the general stuff done, you know, we got to hit the mass people first, wherever the mass people are. So the mass people are here. Let's get them into the system as quickly as possible. Once we get the masses done, then we start going door to door.
Okay. How do people know you're here?
We just got here.
You just got here?
We were here yesterday.
Yeah.
And today's our first day
Okay.
with this unit.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we're going to move the unit up by the car wash.
Oh.
Yesterday
so-
we couldn't do anything besides give them the information
Yeah.
because we didn't have any Wi-Fi.
Right.
I will say, and this is just someone who's, we got lucky enough. Glenn actually spotted it before I did. But I think even having this vehicle more towards the front of the road where people even know that it exists, for visibility, with people coming by, might actually.
Yeah, we were in
help quite
a
bit.
we were in a van with 8 people. I was the only one that saw it.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
No, that's what we're going to do. That's
Good.
what we got to do. We just needed a temporary spot to turn around and get things up and running.
Yeah,
And the guy that's running this facility here, I spoke with the manager here. He said this would be a good spot. The guy that's running the parking lot, who's a different guy, I didn't know that. He said the car wash would be better. And I was like, boy, that's really smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Good.
that's where we're going to be set up tomorrow.
Good.
And we should be doing registration.
Of course, that's not where we're parked now.
We'll be here between 9 and 10. We're all coming in from Charlotte. He'll be here a little bit earlier. And then we'll start tearing down about 5 o'clock so that we can get out of here.
Great.
Because we don't necessarily go door to door. It's not my cadre anyways. There's 23 different cadres.
Oh, I know. I understand how the bureaucratic levels of departments work.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
something-
So
they don't
we
always work
concentrate-
fair together.
Yeah, we concentrate in getting people into the system so
Right.
that we can get them financial assistance right
I love
away.
that.
And it's happening like that.
Good.
Are you guys recording me?
Yeah, he's filming. Yeah, over here. He's
Okay.
filming us.
So, you know, one of the first things that are coming out is special needs assistance.
Right.
That's just a little bit of into the account. People are going to think automatically that that's all they're going to get. No, that's not the case. That's just the beginning. That is just the beginning, because then there's going to be another much larger drop, and then there's going to be other things. But we still have to go through and verify the damages that have been done.
Yeah.
You know, and that you own the house and that you are the renter.
Okay, let me stop here just for a second. And it's time for perhaps, since we're getting close to the end of the show, it's time for me to weigh in just a bit. I said that I was going to allow people to speak for themselves, and primarily they have. All the people that were directly and somewhat indirectly involved with Hurricane Helene. There are some things that I want you to take out of this tonight. One of this is that FEMA is not a first responder. The federal government is not a first responder. If you noticed the means and the manner in that young lady, and it's not her fault, but it's a mindset. FEMA is not even a second responder. They're a third, a fourth, a fifth responder. And they will not go to work unless things are pretty much proper. they're set up, they're right. And then they may get to work. But they're not first responders. No federal agency is a first responder in any way. You are a first responder. You are responsible for your family. And the first level of law enforcement is the sheriff's department. Maybe a police department, depending on where you are. But politics are going to get involved in that as to whether or not they actively help you. And that has to do greatly with locale. Is it a red state, a blue state, a red town, a blue town? Sadly, that's how it is in 2024. One thing that I learned with working for the feds is they don't like to be pushed. They don't like to have a time frame. They like to have a rather loose workload and all day to do it. For example, the AUSA, when I was working with the FBI, the assistant U.S. attorney, because all U.S. attorneys want to be inviolate federal judges, they will not take a case unless it is perfect. It has to have the perfect bow, the perfect tie, the perfect wrapping paper, or they won't accept the case because they have the time and the ability to list and make those criteria, as does FEMA. We were talking on chat. I think it's YouTube chat. As I illustrated earlier, and you, if you were watching the show, rescuing people isn't first priority. First, under FEMA, is equity and then diversity. We didn't even get to number 3. So rescuing people, helping people in actual emergent situations, that is not their priority. You have to understand that. Because the other aspect that you must understand is if this can happen in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, this can happen with you in your town. If your town is in a red state, in a red area, if it is politically incorrect in some fashion, in not keeping with Gaia's great tune, if you're a leftist, Democrat, or a globalist. And sadly, that's how we are. That's where we are in 2024. Now, you were hearing some places where you could or would or should donate. Oh, by the way, we were talking about diversity. This is what FEMA deems important. A 2023 FEMA webinar featured federal health and disaster personnel trumpeting the urgent need to move away from policies that listen to this. This, you need to understand who's working against you. And it's your government. A startling 2023 FEMA webinar features federal health and disaster personnel trumpeting the urgent need to move away from policies that benefit the greatest number of people and instead turn focus towards disaster equity, where aid is distributed based on innate characteristics like sexual orientation and gender identity. And that's exactly what we heard earlier, is it not? And of course, that answer is yes. Donations. Now, if you want to donate, I'm an old fat dude with a podcast, and I don't have the time or the money or the physical ability to go to all of these places that need assistance. But if you wish to donate money, we'll talk about that. So let's speak to another individual. This is from local law enforcement, who says this.
By now, everyone's heard about what's going on in the western part of Carolina, eastern Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. Donate. Please donate what you can. Try to find a nonprofit to donate to, a church, Local PD, a lot of those are taking donations, sheriff's departments. I know my department is running a bunch of stuff to the western part of the state to help. Donate. But please do not donate to FEMA. They are hindering a lot of what people are trying to accomplish out in the western part of the state. FEMA doesn't understand that these Appalachian people are built differently. I'm very familiar with them. They are not going to stand by idly and have government officials tell them what to do. FEMA's playing a game of FAFO because free men don't ask for permission. Again, please donate and help these people out. They need us now more than ever. By now,
So, to whom should one donate? Because essentially I've reached the end of the show. And I showed you earlier, this is the White House saying all of these various claims that you just watched, the things that people said, they're not true. It's all a falsehood. We didn't deprioritize Americans. That didn't happen. And by the way, survivors, again, the greatest irony of ironies. Hey, why don't you morons go to disasterassistance.gov or pull up a phone and just call 1-800-BLAH or use the FEMA app? Here's proof, by the way, through FEMA and Politico, which is a leftist organ. When anyone, take a screenshot of this. As I said before with the other one, the graph, the chart. Take a screenshot of this too. I'll leave it up for a while. FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, announces $380 million in additional funding to communities receiving migrants. Not to emergencies, not to disasters. FEMA awards $110 million to emergency food and shelter programs to assist migrants, not for emergencies. FEMA, Department of Homeland Security, announces distribution of more than $77 million in congressional funding for communities receiving illegal invaders. Politico, New York City to get $104.6 million from FEMA for asylum seekers. Want to know why people are motivated to come to the United States? Here's something from the U.S. Embassy in El Salvador. Department of Homeland Security announces distribution of more than $12 million in funding. Now, I can't possibly imagine why people from El Salvador would want to come directly and straight to the United States of America. FEMA. Department of Homeland Security announces $300 million in direct funding to communities receiving migrants and $340 million for a new competitive awards process. Again, I'll leave this up for a few more seconds. The Harris-Biden regime hates actual Americans. They hate you and they hate me. We are not a priority. You heard and watched the U.S. government, the Harris-Biden admin, and KJP, the binder, lie directly to your face and say, oh, these things aren't happening. That's not happening at all. We may provide disaster assistance to qualified non-citizens. So as I wrap up, perhaps you're asking, wait a minute, if I'm not going to donate to FEMA or the Red Cross, well, first, let me back up here a little bit. In summary tonight, I told you my point was for you to draw your own conclusions regarding the federal government's and FEMA's response to Hurricane Helene. If you have people who, or perhaps your friends, your neighbors, leftists, people at work, whomever, who have doubts about what truly occurred. Refer them to this show when it gets posted. If you didn't watch it live, share the show with them and as many others as possible. And so here are my final recommendations. As I indicated, FEMA's not there to help you, and the Red Cross is agendized. Here's part of what these people need. If you want, take a screenshot of this right now. Water, Gatorade, baby wipes, baby diapers, adult diapers, baby formula, bug spray, sunblock, paper goods, plastic utensils, manual can openers, because ain't nobody got no Teslas driving around right now. Non-perishable food, cleaning supplies, plastic, sheeting, tarps, toothbrush, toothpaste, personal hygiene, sanitation items, toiletries, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes, new clothing, pet food. This is what they could use. So, whom then do we submit donations to? Here are my two recommendations. Two organizations that are already on the ground in multiple disaster points and locations. One is this, Samaritan's Purse. Look at the top, SamaritansPurse.org. SamaritansPurse.org. They are there. They are already on the ground. They are not FEMA. They are not the Red Cross. They are oriented in a religious fashion. I believe Graham has something to do with this. And it's not going to be spent on a shit ton of admin bullshit. It goes to the people. They are there right now. Who else? CajunNavyRelief.com. CajunNavyRelief.com. Again, I repeat, SamaritansPurse.org. SamaritansPurse.org. And CajunNavyRelief.com. CajunNavyRelief.com. I'd like to again remind you where you are and where you're listening.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you kindly for watching and listening. Good night. God bless. Take care. And of course, be safe.